One Piece is one of the longest running anime out there, surviving as the only one left of the original Big Three. And it's a sad truth for any Black Clover, My Hero, or Demon Slayer stan that until One Piece ends, there won't really be a new Big Three. And that day still has a while to come. And as we slowly reach that point, I hear more and more about how One Piece is too many episodes. And as someone who binged One Piece when around 750 episodes had aired, I can't sympathize when someone says the show is too long, since I had to spend months catching up myself, and I didn't regret a thing. I think that to build a world and story as magnificent as the one Oda created in One Piece, too many episodes isn't enough of a claim to tarnish its name. And even if the show isn't perfect, there's a number of aspects that have been built over the span of decades now that truly can't be recreated anywhere else. Of course, we could have met all the characters around the same time if One Piece were short. In Naruto, we were introduced to Team 7 and most of the ninjas in Naruto's class at the same time. Gintama also introduced us to most of the cast in the very first episode. So why couldn't One Piece do this? More than any other long-running shonen of renown like the ones I just listed, One Piece is a journey. It's an adventure where we see Luffy travel the world and meet new people all the time. A key factor to the show's world building is the feeling of exploration, and to be suddenly introduced to a number of important characters feels off-putting in what should be a gradual and hard-earned process. I mean, he's becoming the Pirate King for God's sake, and a crew of that caliber can't be assembled so easily either. Second, and more importantly, the process takes time because the show means to emphasize that the crew we love is truly just a bunch of strangers whose very different dreams were brought together by Luffy. It reinforces Luffy's reason for being the protagonist. He isn't becoming the Pirate King just because he's strong or has a unique devil fruit. He's got the natural charisma and likability of a leader who can truly realize his and his friends' dreams. By taking time to introduce each character, we see the scars of their pasts. Most of the crew members are introduced as very independent or hesitant to befriend others because of the trauma they've experienced before. Robin lost her home to the government that was supposed to protect her. Nami was raised as the servant of a malicious pirate crew. Frankie lost his family and became the sole carrier of one of the world's biggest secrets, leading him to trust no one but himself. As we follow Luffy through his journey, we see him draw in these equally charismatic and unique crew members to join him. They all start with little to nothing in common with each other, but Luffy somehow becomes the anchor that ties them all together. And I feel like no better scene captures this idea than Zorro's Sacrifice in Thriller Bark.
本当に幸せだった。君たちがいたから。
Because they're all strangers, a certain degree of time spent with the characters is needed to personally witness their journey and trip with Luffy. The bonds between them that develop over hundreds of episodes can't be found in many other shorter shows. Not to say meaningful bonds can't be created on a small scale, but there are unique moments in One Piece that show exactly what the crew's journey means to each of them and just how far they've come as characters. Zorro is Luffy's first mate, the one who should stand beside him no matter what and follow his captain to the end. But we see these two meet as complete strangers. We're introduced to Zorro as a pirate hunter and hardened fighter. He isn't prone to being sensitive or emotional, and honestly, we don't truly understand his devotion to the crew, and mainly Luffy, the man he's chosen to follow, until Thriller Bark. Hell, we only have a brief understanding of his backstory to this day. After an entire 45 episode arc where Luffy stretches the boundaries of his body to its absolute limits, our first mate is confronted with two options: let his captain be captured and taken, or take on all the pain he's experienced this arc, even after Zorro's had fights of his own. And we, of course, expect him to take on the pain, and he does. But there's something special about watching this scene. No one cries, there's no flashbacks showing Zorro and Luffy's touching moments. It doesn't even feel like it's trying to tug at your heartstrings. But there's something about seeing Zorro volunteer to take the pain of his captain in its entirety that helps us as viewers understand just how devoted he is to Luffy, and what the 400-something episodes they've been together really mean. This scene, his bloodied body standing proud and confident, is the physical embodiment of Zorro's confidence in his captain's ideals and his true belief that Luffy will become the Pirate King. He doesn't need to say a word about what happened because we, as watchers, understand the magnitude of this moment and know that Zoro will follow Luffy to the ends of the earth to see both of their dreams come to fruition. The biggest theme of the show is questioning what is right and fair in the world. It questions the ideals that have molded the Grand Line into what it is, and whether change is better or even needed. The Marines are posed as villains in the story, but they're, at the end of the day, fighting for the safety of the world's citizens. After all, not every pirate crew is as wholesome as Luffy's. But the real enemy of the story is ambiguous. No one can be declared as fully evil or good, but are instead defined by the difference in their ideals. Luffy wanting to become the Pirate King makes him a natural enemy of the government and the world's strongest pirates who desire the same. But as plots change and motivations are revealed, we find that line becoming more blurry, meeting people like Garp, Sengoku, and Whitebeard. One Piece is as much of a physical exploration of the Grand Line as it is an exploration into what it means to be right among so many dreams. We witness personally over the episodes how each character has developed their own morals, and the interaction between these characters are what make One Piece so damn interesting. Characters we've been wanting to see meet for so long finally do so, and whether they just speak or end up fighting, we see how their motivations mix. It's like the first meeting and fight between Kiritsugu and Kire, or when Young, Wenli, and Reinhardt finally meet. And even though these examples are between the main protagonist and antagonist of their respective series, something that One Piece does amazingly is making interactions between all kinds of characters have this same kind of magnitude. And while I certainly attribute a lot of this to excellent writing on Oda's part, I don't think much of it would have been possible without freedom from time constraints and the ability to let these relationships simmer over the years.
ソゲキング。あの旗撃ち抜け。了解。
One thing that One Piece does a lot that you don't see in many shows, of course, not saying that One Piece is the only show to do it, but it is one of the few battle shonen that does it nearly as effectively, is making fights less about dramatizing the battle and more about the struggle between contradicting motivations and ideas. In other anime, these kinds of fights are some of the greatest in their respective shows. In Naruto vs. Pain, they both find themselves wanting to save the world after learning from their master Jiraiya, but interpreting this in two very different ways. And in Inuyashiki, when Hiro and Inuyashiki have used their powers to be a hero and a murderer, you also realize that they were both just pursuing what it meant to be human and to feel emotion after they had it stripped from them. These battles make for the most interesting because neither character is inherently wrong. Like I said earlier, though one may pose as a villain, their motivation is justified and they're fighting for a good reason in their own mind. This is something that One Piece not only does often, but does successfully. Luffy vs Katakuri is a fight that we feel like we know instinctively who the victor will be from the start. Luffy struggled constantly through the whole Cake Island arc, and he'd reached the verge of collapse many times by this point. But the fight itself isn't about who's stronger or who has the best tactics. Katakuri is clearly created as a character who's superior to Luffy in all of his specialties, which is a reason that I think it's very clear that this fight was not truly meant to be a battle. Instead, it was a physical struggle of who had the stronger will to continue on. It questioned whether Katakuri believed in himself, as he's used as a pawn within his family who isn't truly understood by anyone. Luffy, after the struggles he faced in Sabaody, refused to let his crew down again. He has a dream and will not stop until he brings Sanji back. Any beating he takes is not enough to topple his dream, and the mutual respect that Luffy shows for Katakuri after the fight is a perfect demonstration of how they began to understand each other as they traded blows. They both realized who deserved to move on and continue their journey. Without the time skip before this and seeing how Luffy had failed, I don't think this fight would have been very impactful at all. But because we have witnessed this, we feel how hard Luffy fought to continue and reinforce our belief and his own in him becoming the Pirate King. Most of the time skips are used just as a power boost. They do this in Fairy Tail, Naruto, almost any shonen anime with a time skip does it for this purpose. But doing it solely for this reason feels shallow to me. After Sabaody and the Paramount War on top of it, Luffy questions whether what he's been doing so far is worth it, whether he has the strength to realize his dreams, or if that flame driving him forward will be snuffed out once again. Luffy's will was tested for so long, and his decision to push past adversity and reunite with the crew in 2 years felt like the only decision he could really make. The time skip was done to let the characters reinforce their will to fight on and struggle for their dreams, and I think that this time skip felt so natural after the 500-something episodes that came before, largely in part because of just how much time we've been exposed to each crew member's dreams and their importance. The time skip felt like a way of saying, this is not where the journey ends, and I'm damn glad it didn't. After all, the future Pirate King can't quit just after one setback. The One Piece world is a huge cast of characters that all have unique stories, ideals, and motivations for what they want to achieve. Time is certainly needed to make this world intriguing and develop these characters to a certain degree. Because of the moral questioning that One Piece does, and the debates of whether dreams are truly worth anything, these can't be investigated to their fullest in a short period of time simply due to the varied nature of what a dream or ideal can even be. And I'm not saying One Piece needs to be exactly as long as it is now. With better pacing, the show certainly could have been more succinct. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Toei Animation, hiding in the corner, making chapters into 5 episodes. But there's a reason that the show is made this way, and there's a reason it's still the biggest manga in the world over 20 years after debuting. The universe it's created, the characters we've grown to love, the dreams we want to achieve just as much as Luffy does, I believe is something that you couldn't recreate on a scale any smaller than exactly what it is now. You have the right to dislike One Piece, but saying it has too many episodes is not something I can get behind. The journey to become the Pirate King and find the One Piece is not one that can be accomplished in a couple seasons. To sail the Grand Line, gather a crew, meet pirates of old, make a name for yourself among them, laugh, cry, fight, make up, there's no limit to the amount of episodes this show needs. And when it reaches the day that it ends, it will do so with the right amount of time spent creating anime's most epic journey. This has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future, in-depth show and character analyses.